The chamber buzzed with tension, the air heavy with the electric hum of the Galactic Senate's assembly dome. Hundreds of alien species filled the towering amphitheater, their bioluminescent skin, chittering mandibles, and shifting scales reflecting an almost overwhelming spectrum of light and sound. At the center, bathed in the artificial glow of a spotlight, the Emperor of the Galactic Empire leaned forward in his crystalline throne, his serpentine visage twisted in amusement. For all their self-proclaimed ingenuity, the Emperor drawled, his voice rippling with disdain, humans are still the galaxy's most laughable species, playing their little games while the rest of us conquer stars. The assembly roared with laughter, the sound reverberating through the massive hall. It was a spectacle of shared superiority, each alien species eager to outdo the others in mocking the humans, who stood conspicuously silent at the back of the chamber. Commander Tim Miles, a lean man in his mid-40s with sharp blue eyes and a calm, calculating demeanor, stepped forward. His polished uniform gleamed under the harsh lights, the sole emblem of Earth's interstellar alliance catching a glint. Beside him stood Captain Logan Hunter, broad-shouldered and unyielding, a man who seemed more forged than born. His gaze swept the room like a predator, sizing up its prey. Amusing, Tim began, his tone light but laced with an edge that cut through the noise. The laughter subsided, curiosity momentarily overpowering derision. You mock what you don't understand, as empires often do before their fall. The Emperor's expression darkened. Careful, human. We tolerate your presence here out of generosity, not respect. Tim smiled faintly, undeterred. Generosity? Is that what you call it? He turned to the crowd, his voice rising. Humanity's little games, as you call them, are tests of skill, strategy, and survival. They're not just entertainment, they're training. Preparation for any challenge, no matter how alien. A murmur rippled through the assembly. The Emperor leaned back, his clawed fingers tapping idly on the armrest. And what challenge could your primitive games possibly prepare you for, Commander? Galactic warfare? Interdimensional politics? His laugh was cruel, echoing like shattered glass. Tim let the derision wash over him. He had expected it. Something more direct, he replied, his calm demeanor belying the tension in his jaw. Let me show you. Tomorrow, a team of your empire's finest athletes against a team of ours. One game, a contest of strength, skill, and adaptability. If we lose, we'll admit humanity's inferiority and leave this chamber for good. The room erupted into chaos. Some senators hissed in protest, while others laughed openly, slapping appendages against their seats in approval. Amidst the uproar, Captain Logan remained silent, his eyes locked on the Emperor. And when you lose? The Emperor asked, his voice cutting through the din like a blade. We won't, Logan said, his first word since entering the chamber. His voice was deep, gravelly, and carried the weight of absolute certainty. The Emperor studied him, his slitted eyes narrowing. A bold claim. What game do you propose? American football, Logan said simply. Confusion spread across the assembly. For all their technological and intellectual superiority, the rules and nature of human sports were alien to them. What is this? Football? Romola's, the Empire's lead general, growled from his seat. His hulking frame radiated disdain, his forearms crossing over his broad chest. A child's game? Another human folly. Logan stepped forward, his presence magnetic. You'll find out tomorrow. For now, all you need to know is that it's the ultimate test of teamwork and resilience. No weapons, no cheating. Just raw strength and strategy. The Emperor's lips curled into a predatory grin. Very well, human. We accept your challenge. But do not mistake our acceptance for validation of your bravado. You've offered us entertainment, and nothing more. Tim inclined his head, his face a mask of diplomacy. We'll see. As the human delegation exited the chamber, the laughter resumed, but it was tinged with unease. The Empire, for all its bravado, was unfamiliar with this game, and that uncertainty lingered in the minds of even its most confident leaders. In the corridor outside, Tim and Logan walked in silence, the echoes of their boots swallowed by the dimly lit passage. When they were far enough from prying ears, Tim spoke. "Do you think they'll take the bait?" Logan smirked, adjusting the strap on his gear bag. "They already have. They think this is a joke. Tomorrow, they'll find out how wrong they are." Tim nodded, though his face remained taut. "They'll come at us with everything they've got, Logan. Their arrogance won't stop them from adapting once they realize what they're up against." "That's the point," Logan said, his eyes hard. "We're not just here to win. We're here to prove why they should think twice before underestimating humans again." Tim paused, his hand resting briefly on Logan's shoulder. "Then let's make sure they never forget." Logan's grin returned, sharp and unyielding. "Oh, they won't. Trust me." The next morning, the Empire's grand stadium loomed before them, a vast, shimmering structure built to house contests of unimaginable scale. As the human team suited up in their gear, sleek, reinforced suits adapted for the unique conditions of the alien field, Logan addressed them. "They think we're weak," he said, his voice carrying the weight of command. "They think we're a joke. They don't understand what it takes to win, to fight for something bigger than yourself. Today, we show them. Today, we prove that humanity doesn't just survive, we dominate." The team roared their approval, their nerves hardening into resolve. Tim watched from the sidelines, his heart pounding. The stakes were higher than anyone realized, and the Empire's fallacy would soon become their undoing. As the first whistle blew and the human team charged onto the field, the Galactic Empire finally began to understand. This was not a game. It was war, and the humans had come prepared to win. The stadium pulsed with energy as the Galactic Empire's finest athletes entered the field. Towering beings with iridescent skin and powerful builds moved with practiced precision, their confidence radiating like heat. The crowd, a seething mass of alien spectators, erupted into a cacophony of cheers and roars, their voices amplified by advanced sound systems that shook the ground. Romulus led his team, his forearms raised in acknowledgement of the crowd's fervor. Each step he took seemed deliberate, a calculated show of dominance. His eyes scanned the far end of the field, where the human team huddled. They looked pitiful in comparison. Shorter, leaner, their armor-like uniforms lacking the imposing gleam of galactic tech. He sneered. "Is this it?" Romulus muttered to his second-in-command, a lithe, six-limbed creature named Viresh. "They've sent children to play with giants." Viresh clicked in agreement, though a flicker of unease crossed his features. "Perhaps they've hidden weapons in their suits. Humans are notorious for their tricks." Romulus chuckled darkly. "It won't matter. Tricks won't save them." On the human side, Logan Hunter surveyed the field with a calm intensity, his helmet tucked under one arm. The team around him was quiet, their breaths measured, their faces taut with determination. Logan's voice cut through the tension, low but commanding. "They don't respect us," he said, his words deliberate, each syllable sinking into the players like steel. "Good. That means they'll underestimate us. But you've trained for this. You know what to do. Today, we teach them what it means to bleed." Tim Miles stood nearby, arms crossed as he observed the Empire's team with a calculating gaze. He leaned toward Logan, his voice low. "They're stronger, faster, and they know it. They'll come at us like battering rams." Logan smirked, strapping on his helmet. "Then we make them regret thinking that's all it takes to win." The referee, a neutral automaton designed to ensure fairness, floated to the center of the field and emitted a high-pitched whistle. The game was about to begin. The human team took their positions, a mix of tense readiness and fiery resolve in their stances. Across the line of scrimmage, the Empire's players loomed, their hulking forms casting long shadows. The ball snapped, and the game exploded into motion. The Empire's initial offensive was as brutal as expected. Their first play sent a massive player barreling through the human defensive line, his sheer weight and momentum flattening two players before they could react. The alien crowd erupted in laughter and cheers, their glee unmistakable. But the humans adapted. On the next play, Logan read the Empire's formation, his sharp eyes picking apart their weaknesses. He barked commands, repositioning his team with split-second precision. When the ball snapped again, the humans countered with a coordinated strike. Logan himself delivered a bone-crunching block that sent one of the Empire's players sprawling, eliciting a collective gasp from the crowd. For the first time, the Empire's confidence faltered. Romola's growled from the sidelines, his claws digging into the armrest of his chair. "Lucky hit," he muttered, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt. The game unfolded like a battle, each play a clash of wills. The Empire's players relied on their physical superiority, charging headlong into human formations with devastating force. But the humans fought back with strategy and discipline, using precise teamwork to exploit gaps in the Empire's defense. Every successful human play felt like a defiance of natural law, a declaration that raw strength alone was not enough. Logan became the focal point of the human effort, his leadership and unyielding determination driving the team forward. He orchestrated plays with the precision of a battlefield commander, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. When the Empire's defensive line closed in on him, he took the hit without flinching, his body absorbing the impact as he launched the ball to a waiting receiver. The crowd's jeers turned to murmurs of uncertainty as the humans scored their first touchdown. The Empire's players exchanged uneasy glances, their arrogance beginning to erode under the weight of human resilience. Romola stormed onto the field during the next break, his voice a guttural growl as he berated his team. "What are you doing? They're ants. Crush them." One of his players, a bruised and winded soldier, hesitated before replying. "They're faster than we expected, and they work together in ways we didn't anticipate." Romola's eyes narrowed. "Then stop underestimating them. Adapt. Show them why we're the Empire." The next quarter was a bloodbath. The Empire's players tightened their strategy, using their superior agility to outmaneuver the humans. The hits grew harder, more calculated, each tackle a deliberate attempt to break the human spirit. But the humans refused to back down. Logan took the worst of the punishment. His body slammed into the ground again and again, but he always got back up. His teammates followed his example, their determination unshaken despite the mounting injuries. Tim watched from the sidelines, his fists clenched as he fought the urge to intervene. This wasn't just a game anymore. It was a proving ground, a battle for respect in a galaxy that saw humanity as nothing more than an afterthought. The turning point came late in the third quarter. The Empire's team executed a devastating play, sending three of their largest players charging toward Logan. The human quarterback saw them coming and didn't flinch. At the last moment, he spun out of their reach, the ball leaving his hand in a perfect spiral. It sailed over the heads of the defenders and into the waiting arms of a receiver, who sprinted into the end zone. The human crowd erupted in cheers, their voices a sharp contrast to the stunned silence of the alien spectators. Logan pulled himself to his feet, blood trickling from a cut above his eye, and stared directly at Romola's. The alien general met his gaze, his expression unreadable. For the first time, there was no mockery in his eyes, only recognition of the battle unfolding before him. As the final quarter began, the tension in the stadium was palpable. The humans had proven they could hold their own, but the Empire wasn't finished. Romola's team was regrouping, their focus sharpening. Logan knew the real challenge was just beginning. He turned to his team, his voice steady despite the exhaustion etched into his face. "They're starting to respect us," he said. "But respect isn't enough. We finished this. No mistakes, no hesitation. Play like your lives depend on it, because they might." The team nodded, their faces set with grim determination. As they took their positions on the field once more, the Empire's players mirrored their resolve. The final minutes of the game promised to be the most brutal yet. and neither side was willing to back down. Logan adjusted his helmet, his gaze fixed on the Empire's defensive line. He felt the weight of every human hope and expectation resting on his shoulders, but he didn't waver. "Let's show them what we're made of," he muttered, just loud enough for his teammates to hear. The whistle blew, and the battle resumed. The final quarter began with an intensity that bordered on violence. The Galactic Empire's team surged forward like a tidal wave, their plays calculated to overwhelm the humans with sheer force. Each collision echoed through the stadium, the sound a brutal reminder of the stakes. Alien spectators leaned forward in their seats, eager to witness humanity's collapse. Logan Hunter tightened his grip on the ball, his muscles aching from countless hits. He could feel the weight of the game pressing down on him, but his resolve remained unshaken. He glanced at his teammates, their bruised and battered faces reflecting the same determination. This was more than a game now. It was a fight for survival, for dignity, for the right to exist as equals in a galaxy that saw them as inferior. "Stay sharp," Logan growled as the team huddled before the next play. "They're trying to break us, but we don't break. Not today." His voice carried a conviction that reignited the team's spirits. Tim Miles, watching from the sidelines, felt a flicker of hope. The Empire's players might be stronger and faster, but the humans had something they didn't: the ability to adapt under pressure. As the play began, the Empire launched an aggressive blitz, sending multiple defenders hurtling toward Logan. Time seemed to slow as he scanned the field, his mind racing to assess the chaos. He spotted an opening, a narrow gap in the defense, and made a split-second decision. "Wilson, go deep," he barked, hurling the ball with everything he had. The receiver, a wiry man named Darnell Wilson, sprinted downfield with an almost impossible burst of speed. The ball soared through the air, narrowly avoiding the grasp of an alien defender's clawed hand. Darnell leapt, his body twisting as he snatched the ball out of the air and landed just inside the end zone. "Touchdown!" The human side of the stadium erupted in cheers, their voices drowning out the alien murmurs of disbelief. Logan pulled himself to his feet, his chest heaving, and pointed toward Darnell in acknowledgement. But there was no time to celebrate. The Empire wasn't finished, and Logan could feel the intensity of their determination growing. Romulus prowled the sidelines, his frustration evident in the flick of his tail and the grinding of his claws against the ground. He turned to Vieresh, his voice low and venomous. "They're adapting too quickly," Romulus growled. "They shouldn't be able to keep up with us." Vieresh hesitated. "Perhaps we underestimated their resilience. They're not just enduring, they're learning." Romulus' eyes narrowed. "Then we stop holding back." The Empire's next possession was a display of raw brutality. They unleashed plays designed to exploit their physical superiority, targeting key human players with devastating precision. 2 human linemen were carried off the field, their injuries too severe to continue. The crowd's cheers grew quieter, unease settling over the alien spectators. Logan clenched his fists as he watched his teammates fall, anger simmering beneath his stoic exterior. The Empire was no longer playing to win. They were playing to destroy. "They're trying to take us out," Tim muttered from the sidelines, his voice tight. "They know they can't beat us clean." Logan nodded grimly. "Let them try. We'll give them more than they bargained for." The next play was a desperate gamble. With the human team down 2 players, Logan knew they couldn't rely on brute force to hold the line. Instead, he called for a misdirection play, using the Empire's aggression against them. When the ball snapped, the humans moved like clockwork, feigning a run to the right before pivoting left. The Empire's defenders, caught off guard, scrambled to adjust. Logan sprinted toward the open field, the ball tucked securely under his arm. But Romulus was waiting. The alien general, towering and powerful, intercepted Logan's path with a speed that defied his massive frame. Logan braced for impact, lowering his shoulder as Romulus barreled into him. The collision sent shockwaves through the field, and for a moment, everything went silent. Logan hit the ground hard, the ball tumbling from his grasp. Pain radiated through his body, but he forced himself to move. As he reached for the ball, he saw a shadow looming over him. Romola's, his clawed hand poised to strike. Out of nowhere, Darnell dove into the fray, knocking the ball free and pushing Logan out of harm's way. The effort cost him. Romola's massive frame collided with Darnell, sending him sprawling to the ground. Logan scrambled to his feet, grabbing the ball and launching it downfield to an open receiver. The play ended in another touchdown, but Logan's victory was bittersweet. Darnell lay motionless on the field, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. Medics rushed onto the field as the human team gathered around their fallen teammate. Logan knelt beside Darnell, his voice low and urgent. "You're going to be okay?" Logan said, gripping Darnell's hand. Darnell managed a weak smile. "Just finish it," he murmured before the medics carried him away. The loss of Darnell hit the team hard, but it also steeled their resolve. Logan rose to his feet, his expression hard as stone. He turned to his team, his voice firm despite the turmoil churning inside him. "They're trying to break us," Logan said. "They're trying to prove that we don't belong here. But Darnell just showed them something they'll never understand. Sacrifice. They might be stronger, but they don't fight for each other like we do. That's how we win." The team nodded, their eyes blazing with determination. They took their positions for the final plays, their movements sharp and focused. The Empire's players still loomed, their strength undiminished, but something had shifted. The humans were no longer just fighting. They were outthinking, outmaneuvering, and outlasting their opponents. Romola's watched from the sidelines, his confidence eroding with every human success. He could see it now. The humans weren't just playing a game. They were dismantling everything the Empire believed about its superiority. As the clock ticked down, Logan called for one last play. It was risky, almost reckless, but it was the only way to ensure victory. He locked eyes with his teammates, their silent understanding solidifying into action. The whistle blew, and the final play began. The final whistle signaled the start of the play. But for Logan Hunter, time seemed to stretch and warp. Every detail burned itself into his mind. The grit of the field beneath his cleats, the sharp tang of blood in his mouth, the cold, unyielding gaze of Romola's as their eyes locked across the line of scrimmage. This was it. One last shot to prove humanity's place in the galaxy. The ball snapped into Logan's hands and chaos erupted. The Empire's defense surged forward, their monstrous forms crashing into the human offensive line. The sound of pads colliding and bodies slamming together reverberated through the stadium like a war drum. Logan stepped back, scanning the field as the pocket began to collapse around him. To his right, Tim Miles fought off a towering alien defender, his muscles straining as he held the line just long enough to buy Logan precious seconds. Logan's heart pounded as he spotted a receiver breaking free downfield, a rookie named Jamie Torres, who had spent most of the game on the bench until Darnell's injury forced him into action. "Jamie, go!" Logan bellowed, his voice cutting through the din. Jamie sprinted with everything he had, his smaller frame darting through gaps in the Empire's coverage like a thread through a needle. Logan planted his foot and launched the ball, his arm aching from the effort. The ball arced through the air, spiraling toward its target as defenders closed in on Jamie. Jamie leapt, his hands outstretched. For a moment, it seemed impossible. He was too small, too inexperienced, too human to make the play. But then, his fingers closed around the ball, and he brought it down with a precision that defied every expectation. Touchdown! The human side of the stadium erupted in a deafening roar, their cheers drowning out the stunned silence of the alien spectators. Logan fell to his knees, his chest heaving as relief and exhaustion washed over him. His teammates swarmed Jamie, lifting him into the air as if he were a conquering hero. But the game wasn't over. The Empire had one last possession, and Romola's wasn't going down without a fight. The alien general stormed onto the field, his presence alone enough to silence his team's murmurs of doubt. His voice was a guttural snarl as he barked orders, his claws slicing through the air for emphasis. "They think they've won," Romulus growled. "Show them what happens when they defy the Empire." The Empire's offense lined up, their hulking forms radiating a renewed ferocity. Logan rose to his feet, wiping the blood from his brow as he stared down the field. He knew this was a moment that would define everything, not just the game, but humanity's place in the galaxy. "Hold the line," Logan said, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "No matter what, we hold." The ball snapped, and the Empire's offense charged forward like a battering ram. Their lead runner, a creature with razor-sharp spines and the bulk of a small tank, barreled toward the human defense. The line held firm, but the force of the impact sent players sprawling. Logan watched as Romulus broke through the chaos, the ball tucked under one arm. He moved with terrifying speed, his four powerful legs propelling him forward like a freight train. Logan knew there was only one way to stop him, and it wouldn't be easy. Without hesitation, Logan sprinted toward Romulus, his body screaming in protest with every step. The alien general saw him coming and sneered, his massive frame lowering to deliver a devastating blow. Logan didn't falter. The collision was catastrophic. Logan threw his entire body into Romulus, his shoulder driving into the alien's midsection with a force that seemed to shake the field itself. Pain exploded through Logan's chest, but he held on, wrapping his arms around Romulus in a desperate attempt to bring him down. For a moment, it seemed as though the alien might break free. Romulus' claws raked across Logan's back, and his powerful legs churned against the ground. But then, one by one, Logan's teammates arrived. Tim Miles was the first, slamming into Romulus' side with the force of a wrecking ball. Jamie Torres followed, his smaller frame clinging to the alien's legs like a vice. The rest of the human defense piled on, their combined weight finally bringing Romulus to the ground. The ball tumbled free, and a human linebacker scooped it up, securing possession as the whistle blew. The game was over. For a moment, the stadium was silent. Then, the human crowd erupted, their cheers a tidal wave of triumph that swept across the field. Logan lay on the ground, his body broken but his spirit soaring. He had done it. They had done it. Romulus rose slowly, his body battered and his pride in shambles. He looked at Logan, who was being helped to his feet by his teammates, and for the first time, there was no sneer on his face. Instead, there was something that resembled respect. "You fought well," Romulus said, his voice low and grudging. Logan met his gaze, his expression hard but not unkind. "We're not as weak as you thought." Romulus inclined his head, a small but significant gesture. Then he turned and walked off the field, his team following in somber silence. The aftermath was a blur of celebration and emotion. Medics tended to the injured, but the human team's spirits were unbreakable. Tim clapped Logan on the back, his grin wide despite the blood trickling from his lip. "You're insane, you know that?" Tim said. Logan chuckled, wincing at the pain in his ribs. "Maybe, but it worked." Jamie Torres stood nearby, holding the game ball with a reverence that brought tears to Logan's eyes. He clapped the rookie on the shoulder, his voice soft. "You saved us out there," Logan said. Jamie shook his head, his face earnest. "You showed us how." As the team gathered for a final cheer, Logan looked around at the faces of his teammates, their bruises, their blood, their exhaustion, and felt a swell of pride unlike anything he'd ever known. They had faced the might of the Empire and emerged victorious, not through sheer strength but through unity, sacrifice, and an unyielding belief in themselves. In that moment, humanity proved they were more than worthy of their place among the stars. They were a force to be reckoned with, a species that would not be underestimated again.